Good evening, everyone. May I have a motion to return the regular board meeting to public session? Mr. Banner, second. Ms. Kasmak Bogner, any discussion? No. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. I call the regular board meeting to order and all board members are present. Mr. Bullen, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be advised that in the event of fire emergency and an evacuation should be necessary, an alarm will sound. Please note all marked emergency exits and evacuate well and away from the building. At this time, we request you turn your cell phones and other electronic devices to silent. Thank you. Are there any board recognitions?
Maureen.
Ms. Pullen?
The school got off to a wonderful start, and we've heard about lots of good things. I want to recognize all of those maintenance people and custodians and laborers that worked so hard over the summer to make our buildings the beautiful show places that they are when the students came back.
Absolutely.
So they're too rarely recognized, and they are much appreciated. So
Absolutely. Great recognition.
Dr. Lichtman?
I'm going to take a moment to wish our Jewish students, teachers, and community. At the end of this week is Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year. So we wish everybody Rosh Hashanah Tovah, good, happy, healthy New Year.
Thank you.
Great recognition.
Anybody else? Public expression. I call on Ms. Blackinger to review our public expression format.
Welcome to all that have come to observe this regular board meeting. Per policy 1510, the board allows for up to 30 minutes of public comment, a time when we invite members of our school community to share ideas, opinions, concerns with us. We are here to listen carefully, and we take your concerns seriously. Public comment is not designed to be a discussion. Therefore, please do not expect us to respond tonight. Instead, you will receive a response by email after our meeting. Because we want to maintain mutual respect and civility, please ensure that comments are delivered in a respectful manner to the board directly. Also, under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments related to employee personnel information or any topic that may disclose information about a particular student. On these matters, we ask that you go through the appropriate administrative channels. Please note that individuals are required to sign up prior to our meeting, and each speaker is allotted 3 minutes for comments. You will be signaled at 2.5 minutes so that you may conclude your remarks. At this time, we will begin public comments. After I call on you, please step up to the podium and state your name. First one I have is Rachel Bruce.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Bruce, and I have 2 daughters in the Williamsville School District. My youngest daughter entered kindergarten this year. My kindergartner was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, an incurable disease, when she was 4 years old. My family and I were living out of state when this life-altering diagnosis happened. We eventually made the decision to move back to Western New York and specifically wanted to move back to the Williamsville School District. It takes a lot of work to manage type 1 diabetes. It is important to have a trusted partnership with our administration, teachers, and nurses. Ahead of school, I learned that the school nurses are being instructed not to follow continuous glucose monitor data. After connecting with other mothers in our district, we created a petition to help support our request for the policy to be changed immediately. Myself and over 800 people agree that allowing the nurses to remotely follow our children's continuous glucose monitors is an essential part of their care. You each have a copy of the petition in front of you. I wanted to highlight some of the comments under the reasons for signing section. After signing, someone wrote, "The importance of allowing remote monitoring of continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, for children with type 1 diabetes in our district cannot be overstated. These devices, as recommended by the American Diabetes Association, are not just essential tools, they are lifelines for our children. By enabling CGM monitoring in our schools, we are safeguarding the lives of our youngest community members with the potential to prevent dangerous blood sugar fluctuations, which can lead to life-threatening situations. Remote CGM monitoring offers peace of mind to parents who entrust their child's well-being to our schools. Moreover, it ensures that students can fully engage in their education, free from the cognitive disruptions caused by uncontrolled blood sugar levels. This petition embodies our commitment to support the health, safety, and academic success of all of our children, aligning with ADA recommendations and showcasing our collective dedication to fostering an inclusive and caring community. Lastly, one more comment. Mind-blowing that this is already not a thing. It is for the majority of other districts in Western New York. Why not Williamsville? This should not be something a parent has to worry about for back to school. In closing, our children want to come to school and learn and have fun just like everyone else. Remote CGM monitoring is not a liability. It is an additional tool to help assist the nurses to ensure their day is as seamless as possible as she manages all the health concerns of the other children at school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rachel. Next, Brittany Jesser.
Hi,
Hello.
thank you for having us. I have a 5-year-old daughter in the district with type 1 diabetes. I just wanted to further relay information about why this is so important to us. And another benefit of allowing the nurses this crucial data is peace of mind for the parents, which Rachel did touch on. But most parents are able to drop their children off at school, go to work, run errands, and then pick them up 6 hours later without any other thoughts. As type 1 parents in this district, that is not the case for us. Because we know that our nurses do not have access to this data, we have to be constantly monitoring, communicating, making calls, sending messages and emails, and playing quarterback to relay what our kids need, how, and when. It does not seem fair or appropriate that one of the best districts in this area is so heavily reliant on parents outside of the school to provide the proper healthcare necessary to keep these kids safe during the school day. I would also like to point out the massive amount of time it takes for teachers and nurses to orchestrate this type of multi-point and complex communication throughout the day. It places unrealistic expectations and responsibilities on teachers. They have to pay attention to every beep and alarm from all the devices. They have to make medical decisions in response and respond to every message sent from parents in a certain amount of time because every minute can be critical for these kids. And this is all on top of their already stressful duties in the classroom. So allowing nurses to follow would alleviate some of the burden on teachers and allow the nurses to spend more time in their office tending to all the other students in the school, not running back and forth between classrooms. So in this way, all of the students in the school are directly impacted by the current policy. So as our group of type 1 parents, we put together this list of local districts where they do allow the nurses to follow. So I'm just going to list them. Buffalo Public, East Aurora, Churchville, Chili, Clarence, Hamburg, Royalton, Cartland, Depew, Maryvale, Wheatland, Chili, Fairport, Seneca Falls, Star Point, Greece, Hilton, Caledonia, Mumford, Frontier, Newfane, Lancaster, Rush, Henrietta, Geneseo, Victor, Niagara, Wheatfield, Wilson, Grand Island, Lockport, Kenmore, Tonawanda, Holland, Webster, Salamanca, Penfield, Cheektowaga, Sloan, Honeoye Falls, Marion, Orchard Park, Palmyra, Macedon, and Spencerport. So 36 local districts have determined that allowing nurses to follow is the best standard of care for these students with type 1 diabetes. They were able to overcome restrictions and legalities to be able to provide the safest environment for the kids. So we question, why is it so difficult for the Williamsville district to do the same and put the kids first? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brittany. Next to Angela Lifton. Hello.
I would like to provide additional perspective regarding allocation of resources for students with disabilities such as type 1 diabetes as it is in other districts. I recently moved to Williamsville from another local district. Williamsville schools have the reputation for being the best. I have faced severe disappointment in the lack of resources provided to students in the short time I have been here. Some examples. The previous district I was in provided 2 full-time nurses in an elementary building with approximately 375 students, 2 of which had type 1 diabetes. The Williamsville Elementary building has more students at approximately 560, at least 2 students with type 1 diabetes and only 1 full-time nurse. My previous school district provided a district-issued iPad for each type 1 student in the nurse's office and allowed the nurses to remotely follow the students' continuous glucose monitors. None of this is happening in the current building, as previously mentioned. The previous district had 1 assigned lunch monitor per elementary school class, allowing for increased adult supervision in the cafeteria. This is especially important for children with food allergies and type 1 diabetes. This school does not have anywhere near the staff to provide that. Williamsville current standards of care for students with type 1 diabetes are low. The bar needs to be raised. The lack of resources allocated poses a safety risk for students and a liability for the district. We know as taxpayers that the resources are there. They just need to be allocated properly so that all children can be safe at school and have an equal chance at the great education we know our district can provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Jesser, please.
Sure. Just going to pull this up a bit so everybody can hear me. So I didn't prepare remarks because I've been living this situation the past 3 years. I know it by heart. My daughter Jane became a diabetic at 3 years old, and we have fought with this district for resources the entire time. I hate to use the word fought, but it's the most accurate word to use. There were no resources available at a pre-K when we were sending our type 1 diabetic daughter there. No answers, no responses. We had to fight to get resources put there so that we had somebody to keep an eye on our daughter for her safety, to make sure that she was in a range, a healthy range to learn and to not have long-term damage. That was a fight. My wife ended up getting hired to do that. The next year, because you guys will not follow these numbers, we had a one-on-one aide last year. My wife sat home all day, texting, interacting, directing every single person there how to do this. Then we come in to our 504 meeting this year and we're told that we don't need an aide anymore. I say, why? What has changed? Who has decided that the standard of care for our daughter from the past 2 years has now fallen off? We were told that it wasn't economical. I don't understand how a child and their healthcare decisions are made by lawyers and by liability insurance decisions. There can't be a doctor that's been involved with this, because if there has been, this wouldn't be the situation that we're in. The list that my wife went through was very long. I would imagine everybody was a little bit thinking, hey, maybe we could just tidy this up. But that's 36 school districts that are doing it better than Williamsville. And Williamsville is supposed to be the best. That's why we moved here. We're from Rochester. I demand better from this organization, and I would think that anybody who had a child in our situation would expect the same. That's all that we ask. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. And then I have Ona Strang. Is she here? No? Okay. That concludes our public expression.
Thank you, Ms. Blackinger. Moving on to item 5, President's Report. The next event we have is a community forum, which is on September 30th between 9 and 11 at East High School. And that's followed by the after-school conversations with the staff with the Board of Education on November 1st. And we had a retreat on August 17th in which the entire board took part. Does anybody board member want to talk about it? Any comments? Okay. I just want to thank Ms. Lynn Carey and Dr. Brownhall and staff for organizing it. It was informative for me. And we have school visits coming up on October 6th and November 3rd, both Fridays. And then more information is on board docs. And moving on to item 5B, board goals and implementation plans. They are in board docs and for anyone to review. Would anyone like to add anything to the implementation plans? Ms. Kathleen Bogner?
It's not that I want to add anything specific, but I just wanted to look at a topic that's related to our communication goal and specifically implementation plan number 4, which is keep community members informed through BOE written correspondence and by following BOE stakeholder communication guidelines. And it's also related to our board governance implementation plan number 2, which is ensure shared understanding of superintendent and board goals, responsibilities, and board operating procedures. So per our stakeholder communication guidelines, when we receive district-related email, we forward it to all other board members and our superintendent, and then our president responds on behalf of the board. However, I'm unclear about our protocol when both the board and superintendent receive an email, especially when most fall under the superintendent's responsibility of day-to-day operations or an administrative concern, as opposed to our responsibility, which is primarily board policy and oversight. So I just wanted to get some clarity about what our protocol will be as we get these emails that are coming to both the board and the superintendent. Absolutely.
Okay, great. If an email comes to the board and to the superintendent, historically, I have answered that email unless the board president requests from me that I provide them information so that they can answer it. Or sometimes it's been a dual answer, right? So I usually take the initiative and answer the email because I usually have more information than the board president. But then all board members are copied on that email so you can see a response has been sent. And if the board president so chooses to put an exclamation point by what I've said, they can do that with a separate email.
Wonderful, thank you. I guess then when we look at our implementation plan, one of the measures is that the board president will respond to all communication received or something to that effect. I don't have it right in front of
Folder
me.
correspondence.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we may want to modify that in some way so that it's an accurate representation of what's going to happen if indeed the superintendent will be responding to those emails that come to both the board and the superintendent. But I don't know if anyone has other thoughts about that.
I mean, you mean if something's related to the operations of the school district, I think it's appropriate if Dr. Brownhall responds to it.
Right, absolutely. I don't disagree with that. I just think that we should make sure that our goals and our measures match up to that, to what we're actually doing. That's all that I'm saying, if that's the case.
But I want to be careful with that statement because there's nothing that
Doesn't follow.
not the operations of the school district, so everything would fall under that. I think, again, the delineation that we're looking for is that if something is sent separately and specifically to the Board of Education, then the board president will answer. If something is sent both to the superintendent and the board, then the superintendent will answer on behalf of the district.
I mean, I think there have been cases sometimes where the board needs information from you.
Oh, absolutely.
Go ahead and reply.
Absolutely. And I've graciously given that information.
So I guess just so that I have an understanding, Dr. Singh, and making sure that you're clear, since you are our board president and you're the one that's going to be responsible for this, that if we receive just the board or an individual board member receives, and then we forward it on to the rest of the board, that you as a spokesperson for the board will acknowledge that email. And it's only in the circumstance when an email comes to both the board and the superintendent that the superintendent may choose to take the lead.
I mean, I think, in my opinion, the board president should acknowledge all emails, and even though the superintendent might respond to it.
Okay.
Okay, so if that's the case, if the agreement is that you will acknowledge all the board emails regardless of who they are sent to, then we can leave the goal as written and the measures as written.
Dr. Littman.
I just wanted to agree with that, but, anything that is sent to both the board and the superintendent, there needs to be some response from the board president, because again, you don't want people in the community to think, well, I sent a note to the board and we didn't get a response. So at least if the superintendent writes that I'm sending this on behalf of the district and the board, I think that clarity would be helpful, because again, we never want the community to think that, hey, I sent a note to the board and we didn't get a response. So
Unless there's a point where the board president still wants to acknowledge receipt of it, just to say that the board has received it.
yes, some acknowledgement from the
Correct.
board president. Yes, thank you.
So Dr. Singh, what is your understanding, just so we're all clear?
He's going to be busier than he would like.
Can change the wording.
Yeah,
Okay,
the wording might stand as it is.
okay, so the intention is to respond to all emails that come to the board.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to 5C. Policy review for the 7,000 committee will be held on October 25th. There are 87 policies regarding students on this, and I think Mrs. Kazmarak Bogner, Dr. Spicer, and Dr. Littman will be attending those. And moving on to 5D, Erie County Association of School Boards. They have events coming up. One is the state aid with Rick Timms. It's on October 12th. And would any board member like to attend the presentation?
What date is that?
Okay.
I will say that I attended that last year and I found it very, very insightful, particularly for new board members to really grab an understanding of how state aid is figured and where some of the challenges are. I'm going to be moving that day though, so not going to be a good day for me to attend.
I mean, I attended last year with Maureen, and I think at the end of the presentation, he broke it down to how it will affect your school district.
Yes.
So it was pretty
Yes.
useful. Okay. The other event coming up is the Albany update by David Little on November 2nd. Would anyone be interested in that? Poland?
I can do that.
Tuesday.
And we have the ECASB legislature dinner on November 16th. Would anyone be interested in attending? Ms. Blackinger? Anybody else? Ms. Poland? Dr. Littman? And we have one more event, the ECASB speed boarding event on November 30th. Is anyone interested in?
Have we seen the topics for that yet?
I haven't actually.
Maybe we'll look at that again.
I mean, I think we have some time for that. It's November 30th. We did have an event, back to school event organized by ECASB earlier. And Ms. Poland and Ms. Blackinger attended the event with me, and I thought that was a pretty interesting presentation on school branding during that dinner. Moving on to 5 E, we have the NISPA events. There's mass shooting in schools, lessons from tragedy and opportunities for prevention and response on September 19th. It's a free webinar, right? Free presentation. And right now, I will be attending that with Mrs. Kazmarek, Bogner, and Ms. Blackinger. Is anyone else interested in signing up? We have the NISPA annual convention coming up on October 26th. Right now, at Mr. Bulin, Ms. Kazmarek, Bogner, Ms. Poulin, Dr. Littman, Dr. Spicer, and I have registered. Does anyone else want to register? Ms. Blackinger?
That was good.
We have more information about other NISPA related events in the board docs, if anyone wants to look at it. Moving on, we have PTA, PTSA school meetings, and I think we had 3 PTA, PTSA school meetings yesterday. Does any board member want to have any comments on those meetings?
I'll make a quick comment. I was at Mill yesterday, and the first meetings are always my favorite because they're so well attended and there's so many people coming. And there was a question on adding Zoom or some other Google meeting to their meetings. And I think that's a good standard for a lot of our schools to do, because I think it can include a lot more parents that can't make the meeting. So something for the various schools to consider. I always use Country Parkway as our model because I always talk about you guys have a great PTA website for your school and also have the ability for parents and teachers to join in online. So it's much appreciated. That's it.
Thank you. We had 3 email communications from the community. One was regarding programming at Maple West. The other was about transportation for modified football. And the third was behavior elements in the classroom from Maple East. Moving on to item 6, it's the superintendent's report. Dr. Brownhall, turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, President Singh. I appreciate that. Nick, if you can put the community update up, I will get through the community update, and then we'll have a curriculum update from our ELA team. We have principals here. We have our director of ELA. We have Dr. Marie Balin. After the community update, we'll jump right into that. So the community update, as usual, the first one of the year is a bit long, so I will get started. Back to school. We had a great back to school. We truly did. I was able to visit every school those first 2 days. Our leadership team, our cabinet members, they had their liaison assignment for their schools that they visited that entire week. So we have great happenings at Transit, Country Parkway, and Williamsville East. We had representation on all news media outlets that day. We began the day at 5:20 a.m. at South High School. We had a live shot at 5:30, a live shot at 6 o'clock, another live shot at 6 o'clock, a live shot at 6:30. We had Keith Boardman was interviewed by Channel 7 on the left. Principal Keith Boardman, excuse me. Principal Chris McDuffie was interviewed by Spectrum News. Principal Keith Wing was interviewed by Spectrum News. I was interviewed by Channel 2. And then we had our student Congress leaders from South High School. They were interviewed by Channel 4 on the bottom. So we had a great media presence on that first day of school. And I was very, very pleased to see all of the smiling faces entering school that day. I was also very pleased to see all of the transportation buses that were zooming through our district, getting kids to school on time, picking them up on time also. So I want to give a huge shout out to our transportation department, our director of transportation, Andrina Goldsmith, and our dispatchers, June Butino and Carolyn Castronova. So they did an outstanding job under the direction of our Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Management Services, Mr. Tom Matursky, and we continue to have a very strong partnership with STA. All of those elements put together to give us a great start with our transportation. So I just want to give a round of applause to those individuals. So we've spoken about this on the first weekly update and the welcome back to school about our COVID-19 health information, and there's been a change. So families and staff will still be notified through WITS if they're exposed to COVID-19. The district was notified by Erie Wombosis and the governor's office on September 5th that they would be providing test kits to districts for the 23-24 school year. You may remember at the end of last year, they informed us that we received our last shipment that we would not be getting any new test kits, but they have reversed course and on September 5th informed us that we will be receiving them. However, we have not received any test kits yet, and the test kits are available over the counter at drugstores and grocery stores if you choose to have them in your pediatrician's and doctor's office. However, if a staff member or student tests positive for COVID-19, please report this to the building nurse, the director or supervisor if you're a staff member. And if you test positive for COVID-19, the CDC still recommends isolation for 5 days following symptom onset date. Once we get the new COVID-19 test kits from the governor's office, we will develop how we will store those at the school buildings and who will have access to them. Employment opportunities. So we still have some vacancies in our district, and the vacancies are listed here. We are posting continuously. We'll also be posting in media outlets because we're still looking to hire several positions: chemistry teacher, ENL teachers, English as new language, a French teacher, technology teacher. We have several teacher aide openings. We have several food service worker openings. We have several clerical openings: senior clerk typist, and part-time clerk typist. We have cleaners and custodian openings. So if you know of anyone, you know of any relatives, friends, family members that would like to have one of these positions, please encourage them to apply. And especially for our food service positions, our teacher aide positions, we can be very flexible with those days that you are willing and able to work. So if that's the case, please apply through our website and the Winnie Rick link. Would you like to add anything, Executive Director Floriano?
Yeah, I think you covered it all.
I think so. Okay, great. Thank you.
Dr. Brown Hall,
Yes, sir.
are the teaching positions all full-time?
No, they are not. They are not all full-time positions. Our Special Education Advisory Committee, our next meeting will be October 4th at 4 p.m. And the goal that day is to review the priorities we have set. So we do have recommendations from our Special Education Review. During that meeting, we will outline them all and then review the priorities and what way we're going to prioritize them. Then we will establish committees based on the recommendations. So every member of the CEAC committee will be able to join a separate individual committee to begin the work on some of those recommendations. Communications, and many of you have already known this, but we're going to just go over this again. District and building newsletters will be shared on a bi-weekly basis. The district newsletter will be shared the first and third week of each month on Mondays. The building newsletters will be shared the second and fourth weeks of each month. High school on Wednesday, middle school on Thursday, elementary school on Friday. So we are also meeting with Erie Wombosis and Final Site so that they are the ones, Final Site, the company, will be developing our new district website. I want to thank Nick Filipowski, Dave Morales, our principals, our directors and supervisors for all the work they've done to prepare a smooth transition from our current website to the website that will be developed by Final Site. And that we anticipate and hope will be something that we'll be able to launch second semester. Artificial intelligence. There's been a lot of talk about AI, and as we begin the school year, we do have a position on artificial intelligence in the district because it's something that we're still investigating. We're still looking into providing training for our teachers and staff on AI. But I wanted to make sure we had our AI statement here because we have shared it with the media. And I know you all can read, but I will highlight some aspects of this AI statement. So the use of ChatGPT specifically is continuously being evaluated as an educational tool in the districts. Teachers do have access to this artificial intelligence service. However, there is limited access for students while they are present in school. There are guardrails in place to preserve academic integrity within the learning environment. So the way we think about this is if students need help any type of assistance they would receive from artificial intelligence, that's what we want to make sure they're reaching out to their teachers for, right? We want to make sure students and teachers have those interactions in school. And that's why we want to make sure it's happening on a daily basis. Now, if students go home and they need assistance or they have questions and they access AI from home, that's something we cannot stop. However, we do want teachers and students to develop the relationship in school where students know they can go to their teachers first. But we also want to caution students from using artificial intelligence in an improper, inappropriate manner where they're not thinking for themselves and developing their own identity and their own work. So that's why this is a tricky subject that we're still examining, right? So artificial intelligence meeting academic integrity, AI meeting AI, we're still working on this. I want to thank Board Member Poulin, who went to the New York State NISBA conference in Albany. And when she brought back, there is an artificial intelligence draft document that has 5 phases of artificial intelligence. And I would agree that our district is in phase 1. We're at the educating phase, right? Next, we'll move to the partnering phase and the positioning phase, developing and standardizing what artificial intelligence looks like in our district. But we're still at phase 1 at this point in time. Athletics. Please be sure to check athletic schedules for game dates, times, and locations. The link will be in this community update, so any parent or community member that needs access to it can click on it. Excuse me. Next, I do want to thank, last year, we had the discussion here at the board table, and we developed an ad hoc athletics committee. I know Board Member Biscaglia brought the concerns to the table. The board voted on making sure that that athletic committee looked at our procedures when it relates to drug and alcohol policies for our athletics or our students who play in any sport. And there have been some changes. So we've highlighted the changes on this page and the next page, specifically any violation of paragraphs numbered 1 or 2 in the policy. So you actually need to see the policy for that, but will result in immediate suspension from the team for a period of 4 weeks. However, these are the changes. Student athletes who accept responsibility for their actions described in paragraphs 1 and 2 may take advantage of the district restorative options. Within 2 school days of the infraction, the student and family will receive information regarding restorative components and have the opportunity to make an informed decision. If the student and or family opt in to the restorative component, and if it is agreed that the student accepts appropriate responsibility for their actions, the district's restorative conference process will be held and a plan developed to allow for a reduction of the disciplinary action. So a lot of individuals on the committee felt that this was important, right? And we all do, because we are making sure that the restorative process is something that becomes second nature in our district. So I want to thank Board Member Biscaglia for sitting on that team, our directors, our Director of Athletics, Chris Muchika, our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Marie Balin, and I know that Dr. Linda Rouet, who is our Director of Professional Learning, did a lot of the facilitation of this, along with our high school principals, our high school athletic directors / assistant principals, students, and parents. So I want to thank you for all of your work on this. Did you want to add anything, Board Member Biscaglia?
No, I mean, it was a good committee. I think it was Mr. Scanzuzzo who was on the committee. So.
I'm so sorry. Superintendent Scanzuzzo, I'm sorry.
No, it was good. It was a lot of communication. The students were involved. That was the most important thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All a part of, as we stress, elevating student voice.
Yeah.
Calendar and observances. So this year we will continue to recognize months of importance. An example, Hispanic Heritage Month and individuals of significance. I want to thank Karen Greco, our Director of Social Studies and Libraries, Mallory McManus, ESL teacher, Bernadette Pasick, librarian. I believe Bernadette is at North now. And Samantha Farley, a social studies teacher in the district, for making sure that we acknowledge all of our months of importance and our individuals of significance. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Calendar Subcommittee will be meeting on September 26th at 3 p.m. So I want to thank Board Member Bulin pointed out last time that we really needed to move that meeting. So it's been moved to September 26th at 3 o'clock p.m. And we are still awaiting additional guidance regarding cultural and religious observances from the state for the 24-25 school year. However, last Friday, Governor Hochul did sign that the Asian Lunar New Year will be a school holiday in all of New York State schools. And so I believe the way it falls on the calendar, it will not affect the 23-24 school year, but it will indeed be an additional day off in the 24-25 school year.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that not a moving target every year? Just
It is a
Rosh
moving
Hashanah
target every year.
yeah.
Absolutely. That's why this in 2024, it falls on a Saturday. And so not like a federal holiday. We don't need to then give that Friday off. However, in 2025, it does fall on a Wednesday. We are still awaiting guidance from the governor's office. On her desk are also Eid and Diwali to be signed as school holidays. And that is the end of the community update. Thank you very much. I will now ask Dr. Balin and her ELA curriculum update team to please come up and give us our ELA curriculum update.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brownhall. Good
Thank
evening,
you,
Board of
Dr. Dillon.
Education. Thank you for having us here this evening. While we are the ones presenting tonight, the accolades really must be given to our teachers and our principals. Two of our principals are here with us tonight. We have Dr. Bill Bowen from Maple East and Mr. Andrew Bowen from Country Parkway. So we thank them for being here tonight, as well as all of our parents and our students. You will hear a lot tonight about engagement and enjoyment. All of this is not possible if it is not for all of the efforts of all of the stakeholders that I just mentioned. And certainly our director of ELA and reading, who's also here this evening, Mrs. Christy Carroll, and our district coaches for literacy, one of whom is with us here tonight, Dr. Melissa Johnson. So I'm very pleased that our team is here to share with you. We're very excited to be able to convey this information this evening. So without further delay, I'll have Mrs. Carroll step up to the podium so we can get started. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, good evening, Dr. Brownhall and members of the Board of Education. Thank you so much for having us this evening. We are all excited, my colleagues and myself, to share some updates about our English Language Arts program, K through 12 in the district. All right, yes. Okay, so first and foremost, what I want to share with you is that our program is comprehensive. It's important, that's a really important piece of it. Our vision and mission is to teach all of our learners. We want to successfully teach them by differentiating instruction and providing effective supports for all of our students. We want to see all of our students become lifelong readers and lifelong writers. And that's a really important component in all of this. We teach them the skills and strategies they need to do that. And we provide them with choices in the classroom. And ultimately, we place them at the center of their instruction. I'm going to turn it over for the next slide for my colleagues, Dr. Bowen, Mr. Bowen, and Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mrs. Carroll. So in development of our ELA plan for the district, lots of communication has taken place over the course of the last year. And initially the communication started with just our administrative group, Mrs. Carroll, Mrs. Johnson, Dr. Balin, our district principals. And then eventually we started to solicit feedback from our teachers through faculty meetings, grade level meetings, team meetings, not only at Maple East, but at all of the buildings throughout the district. And in addition to the in-building communication, Mrs. Carroll, Mrs. Johnson had that cross-building communication as well. So multiple times throughout the year last year, they got teachers together from the 6 elementary schools, from the 4 middle schools, and the 3 high schools for that cross-building and cross-district conversations.
Good evening. And then the principals got involved. So this was a wonderfully collaborative process spearheaded by Mrs. Carroll with support from Dr. Johnson and oversight by Dr. Balin. So what did this look like? Elementary principals met monthly, and we reviewed our current practices with a critical eye on improvement. We examined each component of literacy learning and what that looked like in each of our buildings. Each month, we would come together to analyze data and discuss feedback, and soon a finalized plan, slowly but surely, came together, and we have full support from all 6 of our elementary buildings.
Good evening. So part of our process is we collaborated with multiple stakeholders, and Mrs. Carroll, myself, our team, we worked with leadership within special education. We worked with leadership within ESOL to ensure we had diverse texts to support our plan. We also made sure that we were being equitable and meeting the needs of all learners, particularly our special education students and beyond. We also took some time to review and research practices and frameworks through a variety of lenses that involved reading professional texts, attending different workshops and seminars, making sure that we had a full scope and understanding of what we were implementing. And lastly, we engaged in some local and national benchmarking. So we spoke with other professionals, we spoke with other researchers on a national level, but we also took some time to visit other local districts, speak with other professionals within the area to gain more knowledge and ensure that we were on the right path.
So kind of talking about the methodology behind the plan. Really a big piece behind this was thinking about vertical and horizontal alignment. We talked a lot about rowing in the same direction, that we can be better for our students if we are all working together collaboratively. We're stronger if we're all going in the same direction. So how do you best do that? That's really building lots of opportunities for teachers to collaborate, for them to work together, for them to engage with one another. So that's really a big important piece that we've put in place over this past year. Ultimately, the entire methodology behind the plan is to have highly engaging, student-centered classrooms where all students are included and supported. That's what all of this is about. That's why we were all working together. We all came together tonight the same way we've been doing. You heard it over and over, and really that was the goal. So these next couple of slides that you'll see are, we'll stop here just for a second, but the next 3 slides are just samples of visuals. We provided teachers with visuals and lots of linked documents so that there's lots of communication and then easy access to all the things they need to be able to do all of these things we just talked about. So this is just a sampling of what our K-4 teachers might have. One piece of it, if you go to the next slide, this is like a sampling from our middle school documents. Just something, again, one piece of the digital documents that are linked out for them. And then the last one is representation of our high school. Just again, a visual to kind of give you a better idea of our offerings for high schools. So that is, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Balin. And thanks again for having us this evening.
Thank you so much. We wanted to show just a few snapshots of the visual representations. The why this was so important is that we wanted one aspect to really show, besides a narrative description of what it is that we were expecting and talking about, is what does it all look like when we're trying to depict it from a visual standpoint. And I can't tell you how much positive feedback has been received to have a summary sheet like that, really showing our programmatic overview in that comprehensive fashion. I would also say just yesterday, the Board of Regents in their meeting, and this is all posted publicly and publicly available, has a very extensive PowerPoint that they presented on literacy and literacy practices and what the state is supporting and reinforcing, and really a vision for literacy. If you look through the slides, it really identically matches our philosophy and approach here in Williamsville. So I'm very proud of all of the work that has been going on. You will hear more, and we're hoping to share and as you're visiting the school, see, more importantly, visions in the classroom of this continuing to come to life. We've had the great opportunity to be able to share a lot of it with you along the way, various programmatic components. I also want to make sure that one of the responses that we did provide to the board's question around how we're also aligning and supporting DEI, I would like to just take a moment to close with that, because that is really a mainstay of all of this work. So while we are certainly focused upon standards and focused upon best practices instructionally and curricularly, we are certainly also supporting our strategic plan and the tenets of DEI. So I wanted to share with all of our public that extensive efforts have been made at the program level to ensure that support for diverse resources and perspectives, promoting student voice and connections, and increasing engagement as part of the learning process, as well as inclusion in the curriculum, is being addressed on many fronts.
Absolutely.
First and foremost, through literature, certainly curricularly, and via our instructional practices. So we've talked about the cultural framework that New York State has shared with us. Those tenets are very well being represented in this work. One of the main areas that we focused upon during the opening days, and this was certainly the case at every school in our district, in some way, shape, or form, was an emphasis that was placed on DEI. Professional learning for staff also included recent professional learning with Dr. Javon Hunter. Dr. Hunter was part of our panel for the district last school year. He was with every one of our secondary high school, specifically English and special education teachers, looking at culturally relevant teaching in the English classroom. So we're, again, very, very proud of that work. In addition, this fall, we are offering after-school professional development via our catalog. Again, thanks to you all for supporting our endeavors there. That will support reflection, identity, inclusivity, and again, focus on the CRS-E framework. In addition, throughout last year and continuing this summer, I wanted to share with you that Dr. Hunter worked extensively with ELA, but also all curricular areas. We met as a group multiple times with Dr. Hunter, and then also individually myself, Mrs. Rouet, and Dr. Hunter in each subject area director to plan for the curriculum work that took place this summer and our professional learning. So again, that was very structured and purposeful on our part. In addition, to further support student progress and achievement, all of our high schools this year are implementing targeted, focused literacy support for students delivered by the reading specialist. So again, there's lots to come. This is just a preview of what we've already put into place. Much will be evolving along the lines of aligning with further efforts for the DEI plan. One of the things we're looking at doing, and Dr. Brownhall is aware of this, is partnering with Ms. Rouet, Dr. Brownhall himself, and Dr. Hunter to offer a student-led conference fair where they will showcase their learning specifically aligned to DEI. So we're really excited about that. So we wanted to really close out our presentation on that note and just share with you again our thanks for having us here tonight. Thank you to everyone who was involved in developing this wonderful plan, and thank you to the board and the superintendent for everything you do to support our students and our families each and every day. So with that, we'll close and take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Belton. That's powerful. Absolutely powerful. Thank you very much. Dr. Lippman, you have a question?
Thank the team and all of the people. I list all your names and thank you, but generic thank you to all of you. But and all this is wonderful. I looked at it, and thought about it. But the next step again is measurements of progress and assessment. You made a note that you were looking at that. So where are you in that part? I mean, that's the next step, of course. But
yes. So what we
where's
have,
that in the pipeline?
it's a great question, and actually one that we expected to speak to a bit as well. So with that, we and going back to some of the prior information we shared, it's important that measurement takes place in a lot of different forms. There's certainly diagnostic, formative, and summative assessment, as well as qualitative and quantitative, not just numbers, but having observation and things of that nature. We actually have an assessment calendar that was developed as part of this endeavor several years ago. So that is what we've been working on. And when I say we, it's really everyone you see with me tonight, along with our building principals, teacher committees, et cetera, and looking at how we are gathering information, how we are using the information, most importantly, to meet the needs of students and have that responsiveness piece in place. So really, to answer your question, is making sure we have a strong assessment component and an assessment calendar, which includes a multitude of data sources. So
Right.
that is really how we plan for not just the initial instruction, but also the intervention and whatever other supports or strategies need to be implemented on behalf of students.
Thank
When
you
we-
so
Thank,
much.
thank you, Dr. Littman.
And to Dr. Littman's point,
Mhm.
when we do the board visits in schools,
Mhm.
it's important that we have those conversations with the administrators in the building because they see it every day, how it creates a love of learning for the students also when they see themselves in the curriculum and all the work that's being done in ELA. So I want to, again, thank Dr. Balin, Christy Carroll, Andrew Bowen, Bill Bowen, and Melissa Johnson for all the work that you put into this and for your presentation. Are there any other questions, board members?
Take a picture with
Board member Scalia?
In terms of the reading, or I see reading workshops and writing workshops, so like elementary and middle school level, is that based off of Lucy Calkins like
You know,
background, or
We have used various materials. The units of study are the commercial product behind a lot of the workshop. But remember, workshop is really just authentic engagement in actual authentic reading and writing. So we do continue to use the workshop model. It's important that students are able to get that mini lesson. And again, I go back to the components we've previously shared with the board. The mini lesson, time for student engagement, time for the teacher to conference with the student, time for the student to get feedback on their writing, time for the teacher to give feedback on the reading. So all of those are still, that's one part, but it is still part of the model, yes.
so if you're still using that in terms of those workshops, the teachers are still have a component based on learning phonics at the younger age
Correct.
as well, right?
That's absolutely
good.
correct.
That's
Yeah,
only
so-
one concern I had about Lucy
Yep.
Calkins because
Yep.
there's been studies that I think she changed it in 2022, but I think at a young age it's important to make sure we're working on phonics as well.
We absolutely
Okay.
are. So all of the pillars, if you will, of reading instruction and high quality best practice does speak to multiple components, one of which is phonics, phonemic
Phonemic
awareness,
awareness.
vocabulary, comprehension. All of those are part of our comprehensive program.
I
That's
figured, but I
correct.
just wanted
Yes,
to ask.
thank you. No, it's an excellent question. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, team. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is 6C, District Facilities and Support Services Capital Project Update. And I'll turn that over to our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Tom Matursky.
Thank you, Dr. Brown Hall. And I certainly would like to,
Okay, I'm sorry. I have the class size. Okay, I'm sorry. Am I messing up?
Class size.
Okay. Okay, no problem, no problem. Preliminary elementary class size report is in board doc. Tom will be right back to you, I promise. All right, just a little commercial break. So the preliminary class size, elementary class size report is in board docs, and that's as of last week. So that's how we're looking right now. And it is color coded, so you can see very clearly what classes are below the range that the district has established, which classes are in the range, and which class may be slightly over the range. So that is in board docs for all of our parents, community members, and board members to see. Any questions? Yes, Vice President.
Yeah, I just thought it was wonderful to see that the vast majority of classes were below or within the range. And the only one that stands out there is I believe, Dodge second grade. So I was wondering what, if anything, was going to be done to address that.
Absolutely. And that was because, as you know, we get enrollments over the summer in our schools too. And Dodge is an open enrolled school. So it's something we may have to consider in the future, stopping the open enrollment at certain grade levels so we don't have that happen. However, I know that the Dodge administration has looked into hiring possible additional support to keep our ratios down in those second grade classrooms, because that's where you see the 0.4 over the 24 class range.
Right. Thank you so much. I know it was only slightly over, but it's wonderful to know that there are things that will be put in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Yes.
I had a question on clarity. We discussed at previous meetings at Maple West, I believe.
Okay.
Will be crowded, and we're going to be adding the trailer.
The mobile classrooms.
Mobile
There we
class-
go. Thank you.
Traveling. Yeah. So, and I'm looking at the range. The range is reasonable, and if you look at the lower end, kindergarten, first grade. So I didn't know if we needed to revisit that, or, I mean, I know there's value in adding the mobile classrooms, but I'm just looking at the numbers, you say, gee, does the data align with the decisions?
We had to,
Data, and I say, well, it doesn't really match up how I would think it could.
right, and that's why, again, going back to the school visits, when you see how tight some of our schools are and what has to take place in the hallways and learning spaces that we had to convert, we actually had to add classrooms at Maple West this year just to be within this range. And you'll look at some of these numbers and you'll notice some of the numbers are at the close to where we don't want to be too close because more students will be added, And so that's why the mobile classrooms are so important, that we still get them on site for Maple West, because we don't see enrollment declining there for a while, for the foreseeable future, I should say.
Yeah, seven and eight size kindergarten classes are
Yeah.
very.
Because those will just keep moving up. So,
Yeah.
yes. I get it.
Say it one more time.
Not our fault.
Well, I'm sorry. My question was: has there been decisions made about what classes are actually going to go in to mobile classrooms, or is that still in the planning stages?
That's still in the planning stages. Absolutely. So Principal Smith at Maple West has been working with Assistant Superintendent Balin, looking at their schedules, their flow of classrooms when students go to their encore courses. All of that is being examined so that we know what will go into the mobile classrooms once they are installed.
Something tells me we will hear about that again at this table.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Why not?
And luckily, the board, being a board member, you'll have advanced knowledge of it before it comes to the board table.
And from the public.
Oh, no, I know what you meant, but I'm saying, but luckily, so
Yeah.
you won't operate on fragile knowledge. You'll know ahead of time. Now we're going to shoot over to our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Tom Matursky, for the district facilities and support services.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Brownhall. Very briefly, as you all know, we did a lot of capital project work this summer. Again, the last phase of our security project that involved adding vestibules at many of our schools: Maple West, Heim Middle, Heim Elementary, Transit Middle, East High School was finished, and North High School. So all of those buildings, for the most part, they're all operational with those entrances at the first day of school. We have some work continuing to go on at Transit Middle. That is still going to go on probably through the first week of October, where we have the entire outside finished. But it doesn't prevent anything from occurring normally inside the building. Aside from that, I would like to echo what Ms. Poland had said earlier, that after the project work, we had great commitment from our architects, Wendell Troutman, and our construction manager, campus construction, to get things done. But more specifically, I also want to thank Dr. Keith Langlotz, our director of facilities.
Absolutely.
Done a tremendous job throughout the entire summer, and not just during the summer. So you all know it's projects take on a whole thing all of their own, and all the custodial staff as well. They have to come in, even though we get cleaning as part of the project expenses. The reality is it's not the cleaning that we anticipate or want. So they all came through and did a great job, and just want to also thank all of them for their work.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matursky. Any questions on Mr. Matursky before we go to the last item? So,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Biscaglia.
Mister, you did mention Maple West is done.
Maple West is usable, but it's still not, the outside still has to have the facade in that. Yes.
A timeline for that?
They should be done in the end of September. The way that is working is the panels that go on, it's a metal panel system that will likely have to be measured. And then once it's measured, after the what I would call the superstructure is put in place, that's when the measurement happens. The superstructure has been measured already for like Heim Elementary as well as Maple West. So now it's fabrication and then installation. So probably a couple weeks before that is put down.
Thanks.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Buckinger.
Concerning the air conditioning project, I see here November we'll have the bid results. I had some questions yesterday at a PTA meeting from teachers that were very warm in the building, wondering like an estimated timeline of when construction will start. Realistically, I know we wanted to start in elementary schools, when air conditioning will be working in elementary schools.
Yes, and so I can give you a very brief timeline. We're looking likely to hopefully get project approval from the New York State Education Department this month. We're in the very final stages of submission where we have submitted and then they come back to us and they say, hey, we want this information. That's all been done. So once that happens, we will put the bids out, and bid awards are likely to happen in, I'm going to say December. And so then our planning process goes in. That will allow the first construction to happen in 2024 for the first set of buildings, 3 buildings each summer. The reality, though, is that because it's an air conditioning project, the whole commencement or a commissioning process, which is required, will likely take another 6 to 8 months. So they're really not going to see air conditioning the beginning of the 24-25 school year in September 24. I would be hesitant to say that's a reality. It's probably going to be more for those first buildings, the spring of 2025. And then it's going to be similarly for the last 3 buildings, which will probably be going into 26 for when their whole systems are operational. So it's going to be on this basis where pretending which buildings are first and which are second. But it is a process. When we get closer into it, we can explain the details. It's quite involved.
Yeah. Well, even those estimates are helpful to set expectations. Thank you.
Muffle set.
Thank you. So the last item is the district goals implementation plans, and those are in board docs. And when you read them, you say, these sound familiar, and they should, because they are actually the goal activities from our strategic plan. As you know, our strategic plan goes until the year 2027. So the goal activities will remain the same. We will have a compendium in both January and June to show how we are reaching those goal activities and the overarching goals in the strategic plan goal areas. Any questions? All right, I will turn it back over to President Singh. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on now. Under agenda items 8 through 12, the minutes, personnel, business, and finance, student activities, instruction, and curriculum. May I have a motion to approve the agenda items 8 through 12 as presented? Dr. Littman? Ms. Pullen? Any discussion? Vice President?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the textbook selection teams for their thoughtful choices. I could see from the review that they spent a lot of time and consideration in determining which textbooks to choose. But I also was wondering a little bit more about the New World Language collaboration with Niagara University, if we could get a little more information about that.
Thank you so much. Thanks, first of all, for the compliment for our teams. They have worked really thoughtfully and looking at a variety of materials. I'd like to thank, as far as the New Step Niagara University partnership, Dan Murtha, our director for the area, was very involved, as were teachers, primarily in the world languages of French and Spanish. So in those regards, they are working directly with NU professors who teach those courses in the language at the university level. So what will be afforded to students, much like you've heard in the past with other opportunities we have had with that dual enrollment kind of arrangement, students will have the opportunity through their respective high schools to be able to sign up for not only the class at their school, but also be afforded an opportunity through Niagara to receive credit if they meet the criteria for doing so. So we're very excited about that. And those 2 partnerships are new for us as of this year.
So are they in place for
They
this
are.
year? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. At this time, I would like to thank the following retirees for their service to the district. Trisha DeSantis, School Administrator for 19 years of service. Donna Lauer, at laborer at East High School for 32 years of service, and Amy Nicolia, clerk typist at North for 11 years of service. Thank you very much. Under item 13, policy updates, may I have a motion to take from the table policy numbers 5661, 8330, 5680, 5684, and 5695. Mr. Manna, second. Ms. Blackinger. All in favor?
Discussion.
Sorry, discussion.
I would like to request that the amendment be amended, excuse me, that the motion be amended to remove policy 5661, to continue to leave that on the table until such time as a meeting can be held to look at that policy, to include mental health in our wellness policy. It is not there now. Having attended both the Summit on Youth Mental Health with Governor Hochul, as well as the leadership event in July, I think that's something that's really important to global wellness, and would like us to address that in that policy.
You want to retable it?
You need a second?
I mean, do we have a second for the amendment?
I'll second.
Mr. Pascalia is seconded, and do you have to vote on it?
We vote on it as amended.
Now we have to table it, right?
Head back on the table.
Policy 5661.
So the policy number 5661, we're going to place back on the table?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes.
So the motion is seconded, so we vote on it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Table 5661.
May I have a motion to table policy 5661 for
Already did, but okay.
amended policy, sorry. Okay. Mr. Bill, sorry, all of us are voting, right?
I think you just want to motion, you had a motion to table, now you want to vote on tabling.
Okay. I'm sorry.
And that's
May I ask a point of clarification? Because I believe when Ms. Poulin asked that it remain tabled, the amended motion would have been just, the amended motion is for numbers 8330, 5680, 5684, and 5695 to be removed from the table. That would have already left policy 5661 tabled. You see what I'm saying?
the vote.
It's not a separate motion. It's just an amendment to the motion to leave 5661 on the table.
That's what I thought.
I mean, so all of us are going to vote on amended motion to stay on the table.
The amended motion,
Be removed.
right? Well, the amended
I see
so
what you're saying. I get it.
you see what I'm saying? So Ms. Poulin just asked that 5661 remain tabled. So the amended motion is really just a motion to take from the table policy numbers 8330, everything but 5661. So then you just ask for approval on the amended motion, because then 5661 is no longer removed from the table.
Either way.
Either way is correct, but right. I was trying to make it
Yours is
simpler.
clean. I get it.
Okay.
So you call for a vote as amended.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I just got the call.
No, yeah.
So may I have a vote for the motion the
Yeah,
policy
okay.
number 5661 has amended? All in favor?
No, that's not what you're doing. So may I have, so you're asking for a vote for the amended motion to take from the table policies 8330, 5680, 5684, and 5695.
Which would leave 5661 automatically on the table.
Actually on the table.
Oh, so we vote on the other policies.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
All in favor of the amended motion, I think it's the call.
May I have a
Vote on the amendment.
All in favor.
all in favor of motions
The
The amended motion
The amended motions for
to take from the table,
take from the table 56,
8330,
8330,
5680.
5680, 5684,
And
and
5695.
5695. All in favor? Okay.
Opposed?
Sorry, motion carries unanimously, right? Okay. Is there a motion for second reading and adoption of policy updates 5661?
Nope, not 5661.
Sorry, we removed that from the table.
Right.
8330 and retiring numbers 5680, 5684, 5695 as presented. Ms. Blackinger and Ms. Pullen, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Committee of the whole. Are there any matters to discuss under committee of the whole?
I have one. Thank you. As we discussed, or I brought up during our board retreat, which was outstanding, as it was a great opportunity to do a deep dive into some of the departments and then some of the board functions and how our agenda is structured. I brought up the idea of having an additional public expression at the end of the meeting. And I will send around a draft of what some of my thoughts were, but briefly, it is a set aside a maximum of 10 minutes after the board meeting. It would be 2 minutes per speaker. You could not have spoken at the first public expression. No need to sign up, but I feel if somebody wants to come in the middle of the meeting and something piques their interest, they would have an opportunity to address the board. So I will put together my thoughts and send out a draft and get the board's input. And if it's their will, we could, change the way, some of our policy and make this, I think, give the public another way on top of the dozens they already have to contact us, but to come here and, something again piques their interest to have their say. Thank you.
Any other comments? There are no legislative matters to discuss. May I have a motion to adjourn to second executive session to discuss employment matters relating to particular persons and current litigation? Mr. Mena and Ms. Pullen, all in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Not bad, right?